Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Darby Creek Diaries. I'm Gale Thompson, and today we're going to use the January 2019 Hero Arts My Monthly Hero Kit to make these two cards. I'm going to quick show you the kit, but if you want to pass this, go to 1 minute and 10 seconds. They really are generous with these kits. They usually have a nice assortment of things. I love their vellum envelopes. They're very thick, and I think they're romantic, and you can also cut them up and use them just as vellum if you need to. And they have very high quality cardstock. This stamp set is particularly cute. It's kind of a French market feel. Oh, by the way, that ribbon, I save it and use it on projects. Here are the dies that come with it. There's the sign die and there's a bicycle die, but it is not the same as the other one I'm going to show you. Lots of floral things in pots, and of course the storefront. Now here's an add-on, the fancy bicycle die I'm going to show you later. So let's get started. I wanted to make a card that kind of reminded me of a chalkboard in front of a cafe, you know, where it's like the soup of the day or today's specials. So I wanted to give it kind of that look where you erased and you've rewritten a few times. I didn't want it just dark black. So I added a little bit of unicorn white ink. Now for a public service announcement. I love my Gemini Junior, and this is how you normally stack the sandwich. There's a base plate, then a cutting plate, then this mat, then your die, which should be upside down, which is the opposite of the sidekick. And then you put your cutting plate on top. Of course, you'll put the paper on top of the die. Well, I forgot. And as you can see, there's this lovely little rectangle cut into that mat. So I like to jump back and forth, but I really do love the Gemini. And but it unfortunately, when you make this mistake, it's going to cost me a new mat. And the reason is because it leaves an indentation when you die cut something over that. So you really, really, really want to be careful and do as I say, not as I do. But anyhow, let's move on, and we're going to just sort of heat set the ink because there is nothing that embossing powder likes to cling to more than nice pigment ink. Here's my sign. I've cut it out 3 times. The bottom and then the top I lined with a second layer of Nina Solar White 110 because I didn't think that silver was quite thick enough of that mirror cardstock. And I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of a crease there because this is a hinged card and I want it to fold nicely. So I'm just using a paper trimmer to do that and my Teflon bone folder. And now I'm just going to size up everything and see how we want to go about it. Then I get out my Lawn Fawn glue tube, which it's really a good idea if you're like me to use a glue tube because you get a little bit of wiggle room. You know, with those tape runners, boy, you sit it down and it's doable to get it apart, but it is not easy. This is a very strong glue, but it only gives you a couple seconds of wiggle room, but it's just enough to shift things, and it does dry clear if you have anything that kind of oozes out. I'm usually pretty generous with my glue. Now I'm wiping this off. The mirror cardstock is kind of fussy, but we're going to be covering most of it up so the fingerprints won't show. So here's some score tape, and I'm just going to tape the very top part of where I want it hinged. I believe this is the 1/4 inch score tape. And then I'm burnishing it with my bone folder, and I'm going to pull off that release paper. Now this is very strong tape, so you want to get this right the first time, so I just laid it right down. And now I'm kind of working on the hinge. Even though I did score it, it kind of needs a little more love. And so I'm just taking my bone folder and getting that nice and straight. Now it's time to get the sentiment stamped. These are Misty Creative Corners, and that plastic grid sheet is great because these stamps might not be perfectly clean, and when I'm lining it up, I don't really want to smear on my paper that I just took care of. And the beauty of this sign is that since it's a cafe street sign, those are handwritten and not perfect. So this doesn't have to be perfect either, and that is a good thing. So I'm just going to remove everything. And by the way, I have that down with repositional tape as well. And I used my embossing buddy to make sure that I have all the, everything's dry and static is kind of hopefully gone. And then I'm just inking this up with that unicorn white ink again. Now that top filigree thing, there's only one, so I'm going to go ahead and get this set, and then I'll put that back on in a minute. You know, I have to laugh. I use the sleeve of my shirt to kind of press on my Misty, and then I get to thinking, I'm not the thinnest person in the world, but why do they think that heavier people have long arms? Because those are really long sleeves. Anyway, I'm going to brush off the little stray bits of static with a brush. It's not too bad. And once again, this is a cafe sign, so it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. But I'm a little bit OCD. So I just decided it would be as easy just to go ahead and take a block and stamp that on freestyle. Like I said, once again, this is just a scribbled sign in front of a store, so it doesn't matter. Although, look at me spending time lining it up. I just can't help myself. By the way, I hope you will consider subscribing and hitting that bell so you won't miss any of the new tutorials. I only do a couple, 3 a month, so I don't really blow up your inbox. I'm going to hit this with the heat tool quickly. Make sure you let it heat up a couple of seconds before you take it to the paper. It does help with warping. Nobody wants a warped paper. Plus, it'll keep it from burning. Now I'm going to take a Distress crayon and picked raspberry. I don't know. I have a gajillion things and yet I have nothing. So I thought, well, we'll try the crayon. I haven't tried the crayon before, but I wanted it to be kind of a sketchy look because there's not really a point to this. So I'm kind of working on the edge of the tip of the crayon, but I thought, you know what? It doesn't have to be perfect. So I'm just kind of doing what I can, but I don't care if I don't hit the whole thing. I'm finishing up. These crayons look fun though, and I think I will give them a try and do some other techniques with them. I know Tim Holtz has a lot of tutorials on it. When I get downstairs, I forget everything and I wind up forgetting about most of my supplies. Now I'm going to hit that with the heat tool to heat set it because I didn't want it rubbing off on the recipient's hand or in the envelope. You just want things to be neat and tidy. Look, Mom, no mess. Well, there's ink, but that's the white ink. I thought it needed a little more something something, so I just took a solid heart and hit it with the picked raspberry Distress Oxides. And I'm going to hit that with the heat tool and use the Spectrum Noir clear glitter pen, which reactivates Distress ink. So you do want to be very light-handed with this or you will smudge things around. That's true of any dye ink when you are coloring over it. And here's our final little piece, and you can see there's just a little bit of sparkle there. I couldn't just leave it plain, even though no chalkboard sign has any kind of glitter on it. So we're just going to build it all up and mat this piece, and yes, I know that cafe signs normally don't have matted pieces, but I thought it needed a pop of color, and I'm just going to take my artistic license and run with it. So I take a couple of seconds and line this up, and then we're going to glue it to our sign holder. And once again, I'm going to use the glue tube so I can shift it around as needed. I eyeball nearly everything, if you know me, so that shifting, that wiggle room is really awesome. And here is, yep, see how I wiggle? There is our finished sign. We'll take a look at that again in a moment. I wanted to show you this bicycle die. It's the fancy die. It's not in the kit, it's an add-on, but it is just a fun die. And I decided to watercolor it because I didn't have anything in the right color that matches my Leoma Lovegrove bike. This is Twisted Citron. Isn't that a cool bike? It just makes me smile when I look at it, even though I probably don't ride it as much as I should. Anyway, I didn't have any Twisted Citron color in any kind of marker, so I decided to use watercolor paper and just go that route. It's best to leave the die cut in the negative space, so it's much easier to color. Now, it does look like a hot mess right now, but it gets better. And here's the Hero Arts. It's the metallic silver ink, and I'm just touching up my spokes with that. And I tried to make it look as close to my bike as possible. Now for the finished projects. Here's the cafe sign. I thought it still needed a little something something, so I put some Pretty Pink Posh medium-sized confetti in each of the corners. It can look like little magnets or something. And then here is the bicycle. I added a Write It Home envelope and some glossy accents to the parts of the bike that would be shiny. And of course I had to put a little of that shimmer pen on the things that weren't going to be shiny, because we all know there's just glitter all over my bike. So I hope you enjoyed these projects and that you'll give it a try and you'll give this a thumbs up. Come back and see me and tell your friends if you liked it. I would really appreciate it. I've linked at the end a couple of other videos that I think you might enjoy. Also, please come and visit me and follow me at Darby Creek Diaries on Instagram. I'd love to have you. And there's sometimes some extra cards there that I don't do videos of. And also over at my blog, the darbycreekdiaries.blogspot.com. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and that you have a chance to craft something. Bye-bye.